Hello everyone, welcome to this channel. On this channel I create content on sewing tutorials, fashion and lifestyle. If this is what you're looking for, then kindly watch this video to the end. So today guys, I'll be making a circle dress, okay? And without wasting much of your time, let's dive into the tutorials in details. So this is the shoulder line, okay? And I actually placed my Ankara fabric on fold, okay? So I placed it into 4 layers, as you can see here. This is a bias fold, okay? And the next thing I'll do is to take note of the measurement, okay? So on the shoulder line, I came down by 5 inches, by 5.5 inches, but I actually placed it on 5 inches for half an inch seam allowance, okay? And from that point I'll be taking the vertical measurement, okay? So from that point I came down by 7.5 inches for the armhole, the chest line, okay? So that's the chest line, and I went ahead to draw a straight line from on that point. Okay guys, so the next measurement to be taken note of is the under bust. This is optional, okay? You can decide to just take your chest line and you can do the necessary things from there, but just watch this video to the end and take note of the reason why I established the under bust line, as you can see me doing, okay? So the next measurement to take is the full measurement of the dress, okay, the full length of our circle dress, okay? So just from that 5 inches, go ahead, if you're drafting with me, go ahead and take your own measurement. But I'm working with my own body measurement here, which is about 42 inches, okay? So have in mind that I actually placed my tape on the shoulder line down by 5 inches. Please take note. So the next thing to do is to take the horizontal measurement. So on my shoulder line, I actually took my shoulder measurement, placed my shoulder measurement there. Well, because it's actually down by 5 inches off shoulder, so I'll be taking my front width measurement, okay? So my shoulder measurement minus 2 inches will be giving me around 5.5. Since my shoulder measurement on fold is 7.5, my front width minus 2 inches of my shoulder measurement will be giving me 5.5, okay? So you can go ahead and place 0.25 seam allowance, okay, for folding, for seam allowance for folding. Okay, so on my chest line, as you can see, I went ahead to place the quarter of my bust circumference there, okay, and then I connected it to establish my armhole. I connected it to the shoulder line to establish my armhole, and then I went ahead to place my seam allowance, which is 1 inch seam allowance. Okay, so this is the armhole, well established. So I'll simply go ahead to place my seam allowance of 1 inch right here, okay? Yeah, so this is it. So guys, the next thing I did was to place my under bust measurement on my under bust line, okay? So this is optional like I mentioned, but because I just want a little definition around my bust area, you can go ahead to draw your draft your circle dress straight from your chest line like I mentioned earlier, but I want a little definition around my bust area. So I went ahead to place the quarter of my under bust measurement there, plus 1 inch ease allowance and 1 inch seam allowance, as you can see right here, okay? So I have 1 inch ease allowance and then 1 inch seam allowance, okay? So the next thing I will do is to draw a curve like this. Just watch me, okay? So we're trying to establish the circle now, so I'm drawing a curve using the full measurement of my Ankara, and then I'm curving it at this angle, okay? So the angle measurement should be around 1.5 inches or maybe 2 inches thereabout, so it depends on what works for you, okay? So I went ahead to establish my curve from the under bust down to the full length of the dress. So I'll go ahead and cut this out as shown here. So guys, this is it, looking good already. One more thing guys I need to chip in is that we can actually achieve this process through two methods. Either you place your fabric on a bias fold, or you can place it on a 360 degrees fold. So whichever method is fine, okay? So guys, yeah, before I proceed to the next stage, okay, as you can see, I have my bias tape here. I'll be using this bias to conceal the hemline. Okay, you can go as well to use your hemming gum, but I'll be using this bias tape for this illustration. Okay, so for the hemline rather. So guys, one more thing I need to highlight is if we actually want to have a gathers, to form gathers around the neckline, you can go ahead to place a gathering seam allowance. Okay, so more like having a seam allowance of 1 or 2 inches before you place your, before drafting your pattern. So you can go ahead, just watch this paper illustration as I'm showing you here. You can go ahead to cut out your pattern with your gathering extension. As you can see, I highlighted it there, a gathering extension. Okay, if you want a little gathering around your neckline, because you can see some dresses with circle dress with gathering along the neckline, so you can create a gathering allowance for it and then open it up, and then you can gather the neckline till you achieve your required front width measurement. Okay, so you can use a basting stitch for this. Just gather it around that particular area till you achieve your front width. Okay, so this is just something I need to highlight that I felt would be helpful for us. Okay, so let's proceed to the next stage. So guys, the next thing I simply did was to cut out the strip for the dress. Okay, so remember that off shoulder is 5.5 inches. I came down by 5.5 inches while drafting the pattern. Okay, so for the front and back, 5.5 times 2 will be giving us 11 inches. Okay, plus 1 inch seam allowance I'll be using to join the front and the back. Okay, and the width of the strip is 1.5 inches. Okay, so the next thing guys I'll be doing is to cut out the facing for the dress. Okay, so remember that we have our dress on fold, so I'll go ahead to place a piece of fabric on fold. Just watch me, I'm sure you get to understand what I'm trying to do. So before I did that, I went ahead to adjust the neckline of the dress. So I came down by 1.5 inches, but later on I still adjusted the front neckline. So for the front neckline I came down by 2.5 inches, though it's not inclusive in the illustration, but the back neckline I came down by 1.5 inches, and for the front neckline I came down by 2.5 inches. Okay, so just have this at the back of your mind so that you don't have any doubts at the end of this illustration. Okay, so I'll simply go ahead to place this piece of fabric on fold like this, and I'll place it underneath the dress, okay, to enable me draft out a facing for the neckline as shown here. So guys, I'll go ahead and attach this facing and strip to the dress. Okay, so just give proper attention to this process so that you don't miss out on any part. Okay, so as you can see guys, I actually attached the strip, but I will still let us know how this process was achieved. And if you look beneath here, which is the hemline, you can see that we have a bias neatly attached to the hemline to cover the rough edges. Okay, so what I simply did here was to place the facing. Okay, so I placed the facing, right sides facing each other, as you can see, and then just watch. Okay, so yeah, we have the facing here, right sides facing each other here, and I simply inserted the strip in between. Okay, so you can see the strip line in between the facing and the main fabric. Okay, so I went ahead to run my stitch like so. Okay, so what I'll simply do next is to notch the seam allowance so that it can relax properly. Okay, so I'll simply go ahead to notch the seam like so. So after doing this, I'll flip it over, like turn it inside out. Okay, and then we have our strip neatly inserted in between the fabric, main fabric, and the facing. So guys, I'll simply go ahead and repeat the same process. Okay, so I'll go ahead and attach the strip to the back panel as well. So I'll be linking the strip to the back panel. So what I simply did was to secure the facing to the main fabric temporarily with a pin. So I'll go ahead and insert the strip in between. As you can see, we still have the back panel right sides facing each other. I'll insert the strip, secure it with a pin like so, and then I'll go ahead and run my stitch. After running the stitch, I'll flip it inside out. Okay, so guys, I've done it, and this is what we have here. As you can see, we have the strip linking the front panel to the back panel. So what we'll simply do, guys, is to close the side seam. Okay, so to close the side seam, I still placed the dress right sides facing each other, and then I'll flip the facing up like so. Okay, so we'll be running the stitch, stitching this facing separately from the main fabric. Okay, so I'll flip this up and then run the stitch on both sides. Okay, so it's not a difficult task. It's something that when you watch closely or listen, pay attention, you'll be able to understand it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do this and then bring it back, and we'll get to see what we have after stitching. So guys, you can see what we have here. You can see how beautiful our dress is looking. In fact, I'm so excited. This is so simple to achieve, and you can see how neatly finished it's looking. So if you have an overlocker, you can overlock the facing. Okay, so I'll just simply go ahead and give this a very good press to relax the seam so that it can look so neat and good to wear. Okay, yeah, so we're done here. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. If you find this video so helpful, please, I beg you, don't forget to subscribe, hit on the notification bell, hit on the bell icon, get notified whenever I upload a video. Kindly subscribe to keep this channel going. And for those who have subscribed, returning subscribers, I can't appreciate you enough. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. God bless you. See you.